Good evening. All right, we are here. We got the music thing going on. Just make sure everything is up and running everywhere. Yeah, all right. We're looking good. Well, the stream is. Okay, so we got 12 releases tonight, and we are. Let me get my notes open here real fast. I just want to give a quick rundown. We have got 1, 2, 3, 4.5, I guess you could say, rap releases. Now, granted, last week I mentioned that there was a release that I had wanted to talk about that had completely then just disappeared from streaming services for whatever reason. Well, it's back, so that is part of the reason. We're kind of doing things hip-hop heavy a little bit, but there's also kind of a big album that came out this week, a debut. It's not really a full length, according to it's just clocking in at a little over 31 minutes long, so but it's an interesting one because we're gonna have to talk a little bit about it. But we're gonna do it's a pretty solid mix in terms of full lengths, minis, and EPs this evening as well. And even though out of the 12 releases, like I said, 4.5 are kind of rap or hip hop. There's a little bit of electronic music. There are 2 kind of rock and metal releases, and then there, I don't know, do the mathematics. There's like at least 1 indie release. Oh, and then there are some oddball ones out there too. So yeah, it's kind of an odd, kind of a mixed week in a good way in terms of genre. But I guess let's just get into it. So let me make sure I got the sound turned on. And all right. Okay, so up first, we have got the EP here, AFERMATION, from the artist AFERA. Now, those of you who've been watching the streams for a while now, you might remember towards the end of 2025, there was an artist, Kreli, like Wings, I guess. She did this kind of really tongue-in-cheek, hard bass electropop thing. I was a huge fan of it. This feels very much like it's cut from the same cloth, although it does feel a lot more straight-faced. I actually would expect, had I not done a little digging, I might have thought that this was actually not sarcastic, or this would have been like completely serious. But the artist here, AFERA, actually had been performing under another name, like DJ Yablochko or something like that, and it was kind of a joke project as well too. So I have to assume that even though it looks very, very serious, that it is kind of a ironic way of doing it too. And it kind of makes sense. Like I said, Kreli and there's another artist, Dead Blonde, who are doing this. I don't know. It's this. I'm sure somebody will have a term for it, but this sort of like vapid rich girl type of music, but it's being really sarcastic about it. It's actually kind of an interesting thing that's popped up here on the Russian music scene over the last few years, and I'm sure it is definitely in response to the kind of current socioeconomic situation in the country. But yeah, we'll just play a little bit. I'm going to open up the side thing too, so you can see a little bit of the visuals that go along with it. But here we go.
Sexy body for the weekend party. I wanna Bali, I wanna sunny, I wanna runny. Хочу Том Форд и вертолет, чтоб улететь от ваших глупеньких забот. Не знаю кто, не знаю как, дает мне деньги, знает у меня талант. Хочу кино на Каене, мужа бизнесмена в теме и сиять ярко на сцене, пусть за это дают Грэмми. Мы на музыкальной схеме, мне за это платят деньги. Громкий бас раступит время, блин, такое поколение.
So, again, lyrically, thematically, it's just this very superficial, vapid type of stuff, but that's kind of the idea. Again, and the imagery you can see there on the side where it's sort of very glamorous, and you got the Kremlin in the background. Provincial chic, maybe, is one way of looking at it. I don't know. There's a little bit of, at least in my opinion, there's a little bit of tattoo in this sound right here as well. But again, we got the hard bass thing happening right there as well too. I guess if I want to mention the video, I just point upward. I wasn't paying attention to my video position. Okay, well, yeah, you get the idea there. Again, it's definitely, it's gotta be ironic and kind of tongue-in-cheek. It's just the lyrically and visually wise, it's too on point. Which, like, you have to kind of take some of these things into consideration when looking at an artist, right? This is actually an important theme that we're gonna come back to here quite soon, where if you have an image and it is one of those things that could irritate people, you have to, I guess, lean fully into it, especially if it's one, like, you have to, if you're going to be completely straight-faced about something that is, like I said, so superficial and vapid, then you completely lean into it and you kind of sell it. And it works. Again, it's kind of, it'll be interesting to see what the artist does with this next. This is her first release, as far as I can recall. But yeah, that is the EP Affirmation by the artist AFERA. But moving on, we have completely different here. This is the EP Звёздам by the group Полным Ходом. This is pop punk. Reminds me a lot of Sum 41 musically, with the kind of metal influences shining through there. But, you know, going through this EP, you definitely hear other sounds. Shows that the group is well versed in the suburban punk sound, if you will. It's just kind of a nice release. I like the album artwork, not gonna lie. I guess I did not show the album artwork from before. That was my bad. But yeah, you know what? I gotta be fair. So let's quickly go ahead. Yes, the album artwork for Affirmation right there. But now, moving back to Полным Ходом, it's kind of, you know, simple. I'm sure kind of AI influenced artwork here, but it works. And yeah, just a pleasant little surprise. Something goes down quite easily. Like this, I mean, this is very Sum 41. Although vocally they don't go with the shouting as much as Sum 41 did. You know. But here, for example, I mean, like, I guess there probably are some songs in the Sum 41 catalog that sound like this, but this is not what I would immediately identify as their sound. So when I was saying that they have a little bit more in their repertoire, this is what I was alluding to. Very still suburban punk, but that metal riffing in there too is a very, yeah, Sum 41. So yeah, you get the idea. Just short little EP there. It's got that energy pretty much the whole way through. And you know what? That's kind of why EPs are always a nice thing that I do have to consume throughout the week, just because they're nice little pockets of a very tight, specific style of genre. And with that suburban punk, Sum 41 style of genre, on the EP here, звёздам, the group Полным Ходом do it very well. К звёздам means to the stars. Полным Ходом is basically like full steam ahead, I guess is how you might translate that. But yeah. Okay, now we're going to talk about kind of the big album of the week. But again, we're going to talk about it pretty early because, yeah, this is the album Глаза, Бога by the artist Icegergert. I hate his name, but I know there's some sort of play on words there. And probably the biggest name release of the week. Ice here has been making a name for himself in the Russian rap game over the last year or so. And this is his first sort of full length, although it is just shy of the 30-minute cutoff for my qualifying it as an honest-to-God big boy LP. So I'm calling this a mini album, which makes sense because if you look at the lengths of the songs, this is very much for the TikTok-addled brain. This is a piece of shit. Just gonna throw that out there right now. This album sucks incredibly so. But let's talk about why that is, because it's bad on multiple fronts. Lyrically, it is pretty mindless. The lyrics are honestly cringe most of the time, or just out and out bad. The flow is worse than what, you know, a bored preteen might come up with. Now, the trap beats, because this goes really heavy on trap. The trap beats are fine for the most part, but this is where we talk about Ice. Icegergert is kind of a product, I think, of the system, in the sense that he was, if you read his bio, like he was in like military schools, military academies, things of that nature. He is just by default then connected to the Siloviki structure, right? The police structure in the Russian. And now he has sort of jumped over into the rap game. I have seen people try to make a comparison or draw parallels between Ice and Rick Ross, which is, I guess, a comparison you could try to make if Rick Ross had zero flow, zero rhythm, and zero charisma. Yes. The problem is, I was talking with that first album, AFERA, of how if you're going to do something, you have to go in and do it convincingly, right? You have to, if you're going to do these sort of deadpan songs about being like a dumb model housewife and only caring about money and fame, then you have to sell that, right? Even if you're just doing it sarcastically, you have to sell that character. Ice is going for the like gangster, I killed a guy, I hustled type of bullshit, but it does not feel natural. Because again, he is a straight-laced guy who is connected to the power structures. Sure, maybe he's not like directly involved with them, but he's not from the streets. He ain't all about that life or whatever the hell you want to say, right? And you can tell it's just not there. This feels, I don't know, just feels very artificial. One of also the album artwork, I saw somebody point this out and I cannot get over it. Like there's all these sort of like, oh, it's Masonic imagery with the one eye, but somebody pointed out, it's like they covered his nose more than anything. So the covered up nose, it's not like the Glaz Boga is the eye of God, which is again the sort of the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill, and then the Mason imagery. But I saw somebody point out just like they just straight up covered his nose. That's like the main focus, right? Not that they covered his eye. His nose is the thing that's front and center here. So he even fucked up the album artwork, which is just incredible to screw up on so many levels with this. But I got to point out, Gucci Mane is on here. And I think Gucci Mane's verse is a really good one. I'm going to start out with that. Because I think for those of you who are listening in to this in English, when you listen to Gucci Mane's verse here and you can understand just... Listen, I love Gucci Mane. I've that mixtape era, I was all about that. And he had some just dumb and ridiculous verses, but he sold it. That's the thing. It's like even when Gucci was doing just like the dumb rap verses that so many people hated because they weren't technical, they weren't like super deep, he made it work because he had charisma and he sold it. Here on this song, it is so phoned in, and I think that is just like a perfect distillation of everything on this album. Yes. Last year I talked about Mice 9, Nine Mice, Kai Angel, the whole Viper Squad. I fucking hate that stuff too, but for different reasons. I don't know which of like this Icegergert or the Viper Squad stuff. I don't know which of those I dislike more. I dislike both of them for different reasons. This is just absolutely soulless. If you don't care about lyrics, right, or you do want something mindless, then even under those criteria, this is still pretty mid. Let me go ahead and play a little bit, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Let me know if I'm way off on this, but like, again, that sounds promising, right?
I just touched down in Russia. Моя квартира не больница, а психушка. Я всегда молчу на хате, точно есть прослушка. Мой калибр на балконе, а железо под подушкой. Я слишком хорош, по мне работает наружка. Они говорят, не хватит, контора все оплатит. Никаких заклятий, просто перестаньте трапить. Я не перестану трапить, нет, не перестану трапить. Это Money Rain IG, я хочу их всех потратить. Нам нужен экскурс, мы дадим последний Lexus. Ведь все районы знают, этот белый секси. Представь, что будет, если Жора будет в Рексах. Кстати, Марадона умер раньше Лионеля Месси. Бэджи, Бензи, Гуччи. На синтезатор.
Some of these lyrics are so idiotic too. It's incredible.
Следи за пуси. Как губернатор Москву флекс тебя научи. Welcome to Russia, Бэджи, Бензи, Гуччи. На синтезатор это хата-тлана Учи. Welcome to Russia.
Let's get to Gucci here.
The trap god. And I just touched down in Russia. Hoes screaming for me, screaming like I'm Usher. Big Gucci Mane, more ice than a hockey game. Pop out the brain, more money than the stock exchange. The cash cow, I'm popping it in Moscow.
Like, just
you begging
there's,
for a
I don't know.
handout. I'm in a foreign
Like, even Gucci phoning it in on this verse is still more enjoyable than the vast majority of Icegergert.
A real trapper, and you can check I got credentials, and we can go million for million, mine is not an issue.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, again, maybe you're not well familiar with Gucci. Maybe to you that sounds fine. If that's fine, then yeah, you, like I said, you could probably enjoy this. Granted, not all of the beats are that good. I'll give you another sample here of one of like his songs, Ice's songs, that is like feels somewhat solid. That's my отчество, like.
Мы на них охотимся. Только начал делать это, она закончила. Хочешь прикоснуться, становись малая. В очередь мой рэп давно реальный хасл. Это не творчество, не интроверт, но сделали мы в одиночестве. Диски, гантели, списки и модели.
He uses the same rhymes a lot throughout this release also, which not a good sign.
Лучшие концерты, похуй на цены, нам похуй на проценты. Закон вступает в силу, мама, мы доценты. Мой язык насилия, общаюсь без акцента. Мы верим в Бога, а не верим слухам. Айс на моей шее, но во рту, как всегда мне сухо. Они любят зависть.
So like, when I first sat down to listen to this, I was like, okay, this is not bad. I'd heard Ice on a few other releases last year, right? He actually released an EP that I didn't get around to listening to. And like I said, he had a number of singles and stuff that did very well. But yeah, I never really like spent much time. It just seemed like, okay, like this is just whatever flavor of the month type nonsense. And with the start, with that first track, I was like, okay, I feel we're doing all right. But yeah, I'm not gonna go through this like all the way through, but I have to highlight the second verse here because it's so bad. I don't know, are there any? Got the sort of like traditional folk style chorus here. So fucking dumb, so bad. So just one more time, just. О, моя актриса, я хочу напиться. Не подходи ко мне, могу влюбиться. Oh, my actress, I want to get drunk. Don't get too close to me. I might fall in love. It's just like I don't know. It's not good. It's just not good. I have seen there's one of the, I guess, better rap critics here in Russia did a pretty fun unpack of all of this and made a comparison to Oxymoron, which I'm not going to get into. It was kind of interesting. I don't fully agree with it, but I do think that one of the points that they made, and I cannot remember the name of the individual. If anybody is interested, let me know. I'll hunt it down. But one of the points that was made with regards to this album is if Oxymoron, and again, if you're not familiar with Oxy in the Russian rap game, then this doesn't mean anything. But for those of you who are familiar with Russian music a little bit more intimately, then Oxy he changed the Russian rap game in the sense that he came in and he had a very kind of, I guess, sort of liberal agenda, and he was kind of anti-system and stuff like that. And he was a product of the times. And now Ice here is basically a symbol of the Russian rap game in 2026 and the social political system that we are in, where again you have basically the former cadet LARPing as a I don't know, somebody born and raised from the streets. So I don't like this. I don't think it's a good album, but I do think it's something that you got to talk about, because I'm sure this is, in a lot of ways, going to be a very popular album this year. I do also agree with a lot of the sentiment that I've seen online in the, I guess, more serious rap circles, which is that Icegergert is, just like I said earlier, the flavor of the week, and that he will be replaced because there is literally nothing about his character, about his style, that makes him him, makes him unique. And like, if he were to disappear tomorrow and another rapper were to step into his place, it wouldn't make a lick of difference for the vast majority of people who are listening to him on VK Music or the Yandex Top 100. Honestly, speaking of, I gotta mention this too, Yandex has their top 100 tracks. Currently, 25% of that is AI-generated music. So it's only a matter of time before somebody starts to AI generate this type of slop. And I guess that'll be the end of these types of schmucks. But that is the album Boga by the artist Icegergert. I guess it's worth a spin if, like I said, you're not really going in for the lyrics. You can't understand the lyrics and you just want some trap beats, I guess. But there are better ways to spend half an hour, is what I would say. Okay, so that was the first rap release. And I did want to start with that too, because I think that this is a good, how did I have it say? An example for all of the others after it. An example of, as a rap musician, in Russia specifically, what you shouldn't be doing. Now, the artists that are connected to rap and hip hop that I'm going to be featuring from here on out don't necessarily fall into these traps. They're not perfect. Some of them are better than others, but yeah, they all do things their own way. And up next, we have the artist SEEMEE with the EP HD electronic mixtape. And with the title, with the imagery here, a lot of auto-tune on the tracks, heavy use of synths, and then we got the trap beats too. It feels like this here is a more modern reinterpretation. When I say modern reinterpretation, it's because on this EP, that crunchy, distorted bass and electronic sounds of the archive core style is definitely very present here. They pop up more than once, so the modern fingerprint is very much there. But it does feel like a modern reinterpretation of that Southern style mixtape of the 2000s. And I know with that sort of Russian trap house release from 2 weeks ago, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I don't know. It kind of feels like some artists are kind of leaning into that specific period of time, and I'm all for it. It works. Like, just within 20 seconds, it's already so much better. And yeah, visually, is it kind of corny? Is it hokey? Yeah, but he's leaning into it. In the visuals, in the sound. And when you put it all together, it works. Got that kind of like borderline crunk style here.
Я выебываюсь просто, они просто повторяют. Я давно иду к тому, чтобы мой колоб рос нолями. Эти рэперы на броуке, они все платят долями. В моем криме пепперони и только с двойной солями. Всем своим.
And even if the trap beats on the Ice album were well done, like musically here, the attention to detail with like the weird little effects and sometimes the shout outs in the background. Again, it's the attention to detail that makes music pop, makes it kind of interesting to devote your attention to. You could almost hear, like with the instrumental, like vaguely Usher of the 2000s era. And here we have a little bit of that kind of archive core style sound with a heavier, crunchier distortion. The archive core sound, or whatever that modern sound you want to call it, it is more obvious on some of these other tracks that I don't have, like the fourth track from what I remember. But yeah, right, like just a much more interesting and diversified thing here with this EP. It's a really nice, just right off the bat, counterexample of what you should be doing if you're going to be going with an image. Because I don't think SEEMEE is also from the streets or whatever. I think he's just an artist who's going in with that, and he's adopted a specific style and sound. As I understand, this is not like typically what he does either, but that's fine, right? He's leaning into it, and I think that's important. So give it your all, I guess. That's the EP HD electronic mixtape by the artist SEEMEE. Again, kind of a lot of nostalgic throwbacks to about 20 some years ago, which is nice. It's always nice. Kind of loving that. All right. And then we have another rap album here. This is the album Perfect Crime by the artist Plinofficial. This is a rapper from the Yamalski region, but he's been living in the States since before the war started. I was reading a little bit about him. He even has managed to be charged for money laundering in the state of Pennsylvania for funds that were stolen from hacked accounts. I don't know if he served a jail time or a jail sentence for that or not, but like I guess he does technically have the credentials to some degree here. Yes. This album, if you're familiar with the rapper Currency from New Orleans and the type of instrumentals and music and just overall energy that he puts out, got these really like silky, laid back tracks. This feels like he stole a Currency album and just made it his own. To be fair, the lyrical themes here begin to repeat a little bit over the 35-ish minute runtime. But again, kind of in the same way that when Rick Ross was at his peak and he was just kind of doing the gangster storytelling thing over and over again, it's done convincingly. And it's got really good production. And it just, the whole package here again is very good. It's got a very classic feel to it. And even just, I know the artwork here is kind of dumb, but it's one of those things where it's just like, it's so unabashedly that kind of, right, the hoodie, the sunglasses, the I guess expensive car back there. It's just like, it's a really dumb style album artwork, but it also feels very appropriate for musically what we're getting here. So yeah, ultimately it is fairly easy to overlook some of the awkward lyrics or the repetitiveness here. It's kind of like complaining about explosions in an action film, right? And I do want to mention it was a little bit off-putting at first until I dug into his biography, but Plinofficial here, which is a weird name too. I don't know if there's an unofficial Plin out there somewhere, but anyway, Plinofficial. His time in the United States is evident throughout the album because there's a lot of English choruses, and then he'll just drop kind of these errant English lines throughout his verses as well. But let me just drop into it here. Yeah, even the like animation, it's got the kind of goofy.
Русскоязычный рэп, синдром легалайза, самомнение пиздец, по факту фан как каста. Я уважаю старших, в этой культуре вырос, но всегда есть вещи на порядок выше, на порядок лучше. Это реально слышно, когда в кармане шелестит хотя бы 200
I love the jazzy instrumentals on tracks and that kind of, again, that silky feel to everything.
Курю траву, не нуждаясь в рекламе, не буду возражать, если убиваю с улыбкой. Добро пожаловать в
Just a
красивый
very
мир, где
low
каждый
energy,
платит за
very
себя и взрослеет с ошибками.
Like it's an opener, right? Again, the thought was like, how do we open this album? And it starts and it builds slowly. Instrumentally, it picks up. But let me jump around a little bit too.
Шелестит бумага, дала сайн. Проектируем perfect crime. Money on my mind.
The English.
Риск определяет сам. В двери от троллса подается зонтик. Я выпускаю дым на звезды, кроссы в мягкий коврик. Повзрослевший музыкальный профи. Я всегда знал, что буду двигаться только с достойными. Купюры сотни поясняют, кто ты. Вопрос в количестве нулей, не в размере долга. Сохраняю коин, могу позволить себе все, но на все как-то похуй. У больших денег есть большие планы, главное, чтоб не достали педали.
And like with the last track, we had something a little bit more, I guess, dark sounding, a little bit more aggressive or threatening. And then obviously with this track, Florida Sunshine, you can hear already that it's got brighter sounds and but the production, like the horns and the saxophones and just the whole sound is consistent throughout, which is great. Because, again, I love this style in rap and hip hop. And yeah, it's not super common anymore, it feels like. We get the English chorus that I mentioned before.
In the Florida sunshine, riding exotics all night.
So yeah, it's I don't know, it's got a very classic album feel. There are shortcomings with it, again, lyrically and well, mainly just lyrically. A few things don't land in terms of phrases or lines, and like I said, some of the things do kind of repeat a little bit. There's a lot of talk about Florida and nice cars and just enjoying life, but like also you kind of, again, like I said, you listen to Rick Ross 15-20 years ago, it was basically the same thing for an hour, but that was okay because it was done convincingly, and it was like that was the gimmick. So I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. So that's the album Perfect Crime by the artist here, Plinofficial. Kind of getting the salute there. All right, we are switching things up a little bit here. We're moving away from rap and hip hop for just a a bit here, kind of take a breather. Up next, we have the album Видения, Visions, by the group Сон Алисы, Alice's Dream. Now, I saw this described online as progressive gothic metal, which sounds hella pretentious, and it isn't really a subgenre I've ever heard of or I could even find anything about online. So I think people just sort of pulled that out of their ass, but that's cool, I guess. That's the internet. This is just the sound of the new wave of British heavy metal, with gothic influence in the vocals and a tinge of doom in the riffs and the tempos from time to time. I'll say it like this. If you like Iron Maiden and their peers from the late 70s, early 80s, but you don't mind or you even prefer vocals that are less Dickinson and more like the Russian group AFERA, kind of more, not like, hey, you know, like not doing the Dickinson thing where it's like super high, then this is going to be like A-okay for you. It's not my favorite. The thing is, I feel like there are a lot of Russian rock bands that do this sound or try to do this sound, but the vast majority of them do it just piss poorly. And again, I think the reason that this sound is so popular is, again, due to groups like AFERA or I can never pronounce, like Kipelov. I don't know, whatever, the former lead singer of, I think, AFERA. But yeah, this is not like necessarily my favorite thing, but it's also, there's something to it. I can enjoy it. I enjoyed it, definitely. And again, I feel like that sort of British heavy metal of the late 70s, 80s is in 2026 so quaint, right? That it's kind of like anybody can listen to it at this point in time. It's just like, oh, it's no longer the scary or aggressive thing that it may once have been. Album artwork is also, it does feel like something that AFERA would have used here in Russia back in the day. Like, this scary hand and this. So again, like I said, the sort of gothic vocals from time to time. Very, very atmospheric. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit more though. I jumped too far. There we go. I think you can kind of hear it. Like, again, if you just think Iron Maiden, close your eyes. Not as energetic, not as kind of acrobatic or over the top. But it's got it there. It's not bad. It's fun. Again, it's as much as I love Iron Maiden and that general sound, this is not necessarily the type of group that I would actively choose to listen to. But when I was going through stuff, it was just like, you know what? Yes, there's something here. again, I think you get the idea. Those two tracks are a pretty fair example of what you got here. There are some tracks that are a little bit slower. The final track is actually in English for whatever reason, which was it's a little off-putting after 8 tracks of Russian, but it's also good. And yeah, I mean, it's just kind of got what now I guess I would call like a classic heavy rock sound, right? Hard rock, heavy metal type of sound. And yeah, I feel like again in 2026, it's palatable for pretty much every single person on the planet at this point in time. But that is the group Сон Алисы, and the album is Видения. But now we're going to move on to an EP, and I put it up here because, listen, last year, first of all, I always love when there's something different, kind of aside from the rap, the rock, the electronic. Honestly, electronic doesn't get featured very much. I love electronic as well, too, when it pops up. But like the pop and indie, right? Sort of pop and indie, rap, and then rock and metal tend to dominate. So when there's something outside of the 4 main categories, something a little bit more experimental or something jazzy, then I love to highlight it. And if you were sort of tuning in last year, then you might remember I talked about a group called Jazzhouse Trio. They had this album Skywalker, which I described a lot as like Charlie Brown, came out in September. Really fantastic. If you missed that, you should go check that out as well. But they released an EP earlier this month, and it's a live EP. But I do want to throw the only so the first track and the last track, Birdie and Night Flow, are not on any releases that I could find. So I'm assuming that they are new releases, which would hint at them working on new material, which is great. And even the middle track here, Skywalker, which obviously is the title track from their last album, even that in the live thing here, the level of energy and the improv makes it feel markedly fresh and different from what we got last year. So yeah, I don't know. It's just really nice kind of, I don't know what kind of jazz this is, but I feel like the type of jazz that is like, it's really upbeat. It's pop jazz. I don't know like what the actual term is, but it's just a very nice EP. It's only 3 tracks long, but man, once you put this on, you get caught up in it. The trio here is from Moscow. I really need to keep my eyes open on the sort of concert calendars and see if these guys are performing anytime in the near future. Because I feel like this would be a really fun group to go see. You just hear them. And yeah, right. Like, it's a live album, so there's a few things that like it kind of feels like maybe they push on through those little rough patches. So anyway, yeah, it ebbs and flows a little bit. For the most part, it's very high energy. And they have the sort of choruses that they come back around to, or motifs. I'm not entirely sure what the correct phrase to use there is. But yeah, that is the EP On the Fly by the group Jazzhouse Trio. So really good stuff. They're just fun, really light, just like their music in general. So, okay. We're jumping back to the rap and hip hop. This is actually the album that I wanted to talk about last week that disappeared and is now back on streaming services. This is called CENTR from the artist SLIMUS, but mainly from the artist DJ Nik One. Now, in the States, in recent years, The Alchemist has become one of those producers that the rap game, or in the rap game, that his name goes right up on the album artwork, right next to the rappers themselves. You can see The Alchemist featured, right, obviously with Freddie Gibbs, Rock Marciano, Currency, Larry June, Boldy James. A lot of, maybe not like the sort of huge stars, but the sort of, I don't even want to say kings of the underground, just the rappers at this point in time. I don't know how to describe them. I guess go check them out if you're not familiar. But yeah, if you're paying attention to the rap game in the States, I feel like you've probably run into at least one of the Alchemist's albums. And even though you never hear his voice, the weight and consistency of his production is just as, if not more important than the rappers themselves at times. Now, this album here is, like I said, it's the work of DJ Nik One. What he did is the rapper SLIMUS, who I talked about last year, and I like SLIMUS is an artist who I have gotten to appreciate over the last few years. He put out a trilogy of albums, Spokojnej noci Malashi, and he's probably best known for being part of the like rap group CENTR about 20 years ago. But over the last few years, he's had a bunch of guest verses on other people's tracks, the guest verse. And what DJ Nik One did is he went through and he took SLIMUS's verses from those guest tracks and then turned them into standalone tracks with their own beats and everything for it, which I think is just like a really cool idea too. Which also explains why the tracks are so short, because they are each a single verse long. And that would typically feel like it's going to be really chaotic and all over the place. But DJ Nik One does such a good job of making it all flow together and feel like an actual album instead of just a bunch of one-off verses that are it's a patchwork tapestry of one-off verses. Yeah, let me just jump into it. Oh, good. We've reached the point where Spotify has. There we go.
Криминальный мир Советского Союза представлял из себя своеобразный шарж на политическое устройство страны.
Что это за деньги? Лежат в моем секретаре.
Like he builds these tracks. Because again, remember, this verse originally was not to this beat. So like it finishes out, right? And then there are small outros and intros, and so it, even though it's not like a seamless mixtape, even though it's a single verse on each track, it feels more well developed than a lot of the TikTok style tracks, even though a lot of these are shorter than them as well. I don't know. It's I just love the concept. I think that's one of the things too. First of all, it's very well executed. Like when you put this on, you've got 21 tracks, and it's, you know, it's not that long, even though there's that many tracks, but it doesn't feel, like I said, it never feels like you're just listening to one-off verses. It actually, because of how DJ Nik One structures each track, it never feels like you're just sort of listening to these little snippets taken from other albums and other tracks. And I love that concept. It would be interesting. And maybe that's been done by other DJs in the States with other rappers, where they just take the guest verses and, like, it's like they've reverse engineered an album. So
хотелось, мы любим то, что делаем. Я не любил то, что делал. Хотелось по сцене прыгать с белым полотенцем, быть популярным, как Кастель, Галес и Децл. Сейчас смотрю на океан и пальмы из окна. Все будет заебись наверняка.
And honestly, the actual instrumental part of the tracks too, I'm really kind of blown away. DJ Nik One evidently has a number of albums as well too, but I kind of hope that this helps push him even further into the spotlight. I guess he's somewhat well known in the rap circles, but I just discovered him through this, so hopefully other people pick up on him as well too.
В тапочках и шортах залетает батя. Я добавлю остроты в это мероприятие. Мать его, совмес как рэп совбез. Кому не нравится наше дерево, ебали мы вошли. Стая алабаев охраняет стадо от волков. Выстрел в молоко и твой доход под колпаком. Тело с молотком в руке гуляет у пятерки, а голуби дербанят апельсиновые корки. Ждем позишн number one, к нам едет Кайметов. Крутится планета, падай кресло подогрето. Может тебе пригодится база. Трау в Майами называют Заза.
And the phone thing is constant there throughout as well too. So call center, again, center is the name of the group that SLIMUS was part of before. There's just like a lot of nice thematic elements that all come together to make this feel like a very cohesive and well put together product, which it is. So there's the album Call Center. And even though SLIMUS gets top billing here, I'm going to say that realistically this is, by and large, at this point in time, the work of DJ Nik One. So really nice, just kind of rap album. And again, like another really good example of what you should be looking for if you're into that genre. Okay. Now the next one here is an interesting one because this is like the I said 4.5 rap albums. This is the half one. This is Kids Cry Today by ONDA ANDAR. I think that's how you say it. This is the first LP from an artist out of St. Petersburg who has been gaining popularity thanks to TikTok, but it's 2026. Like that's pretty much how any musician gains popularity these days. And listening to the debut, even though it's a mix of like witch house and cloud rap and electronic music from the early 2010s, also there's just a lot of experimenting going on here. It doesn't feel derivative of that. It feels like there's just a bunch of creativity here, like bursting out, and that like he's definitely choosing to go back to a sound of about 15 years ago. But it makes sense because that period of time, the early 2010s, the sounds that he's using here, it was that period of time where, again, with the music industry on a line, it was like the internet was musically this melting pot of ideas and everyone had access to all of them. And it was this sort of unspoiled land of opportunities with regards to the arts. and where people were sharing things, just like, well, we're going to take everything, we're going to learn from everyone, and we're going to combine it together into all these new and interesting permutations. And that sort of unbridled energy and creativity feels like it is at the root of this album and artist here. Now, again, if you're not familiar with Witch House or cloud rap or the sort of 2010s electronic scene online, then this might sound a bit odd to you. But if you are familiar with those sounds, then there's definitely going to be nostalgia triggered, or something familiar is going to be popping up there. Let me just get into it. Also, there is an audio clip that is throughout this entire album, which is of Moe from The Simpsons, like wailing or crying. And I would love to know what episode of The Simpsons it's from. It's definitely got that cloud rap, right? And it does feel like a lot of sounds on this album are, if not directly lifted from tracks from that period of time, but like very similar at times. But I think that's like fine. I don't have any qualms with that necessarily. It's kind of off the wall, right? It's, I guess, experimental is what you would call it, but it does. There's something very 2010s about this sound. Obviously, but again, through the prism of 2026. I really want to find the Moe wailing sound now, though. All right, give me a second. I gotta find Moe. But yeah, I mean, like, from a sound point of view, like very hazy, very kind of melting, right? Like everything just kind of melds into everything around it. It's definitely an aesthetic. I'm not gonna be able to find Moe now. Alright, one last shot. Alright, one last one. We'll go to the last one. Alright, yeah, I cannot find the Moe from The Simpsons wailing like half a second sound clip on the album, but it shows up multiple times. So I guess maybe if somebody listens to this, they can help identify it for me. Again, I think it's a hard sound to describe or to sum up if you weren't there for that sound about 15 years ago. And it is definitely one of those that on the one, like there are definitely tracks on this album that if you're not familiar with it, it is maybe kind of lulling and soothing and just kind of something that feels like Baby You're Floating. And then there are other tracks that feel a bit more aggressive and atonal or dissonant. But I actually really liked this album, as odd as it is, just because it does, again, feel like somebody who is throwing everything together, but doing so in a way that it's not just sort of whatever sticks to the wall, but like a Jackson Pollock type thing where there's a method to it. And it works. And again, for somebody who did listen to a lot of that type of music back in the day, then I do think, yeah, it's done well. It brings back that sound of that era. Obviously, though, like I said, through a modern, or from a modern point of view. So that is the album Kids Cry Today by the artist ONDA ANDAR out of St. Petersburg. Okay, we got 3 left. We're at the tab limit. And we're on to another album that is an oddball one. And this is the album Tam Откуда мы, or There from Where We Are, or From the Place from Which We Come, right? I don't know how exactly I want to pronounce it. And the artist is Andrey Pobem. This is an album that is in the gray zone between ambient music and that kind of extremely cinematic post-rock. I think what I'm going to try to do, if it's possible, is like once a month or so, feature a release like this. I love the album artwork too, which is very clearly a picture of a Soviet panel apartment with this lovingly hand-drawn artwork around it. But yeah, I'm going to try to incorporate, or I'm going to try to feature albums like this around like once a month or so. The type of albums that are really good for reflecting, right? Long walks alone with your thoughts, or quiet mornings with tea looking out at the snowstorm, or at a rainy day, or for just putting into your ears and kind of melting away into your dreams as you drift to sleep. This sort of really just relaxing ones. This album, in and of itself, the idea here is it's a remembrance of the quiet Soviet residential neighborhoods. According to the words of the author, quote, a journey home to the old apartment, which is still just as warm and cozy, where your parents are still young and the door is always open for all, where we grew up and each new day was lived so as to be remembered forever. So this is very, again, it's sort of somewhere between ambient and like cinematic post-rock. So it's not just that like really open ambient sound. There are passages, there are moments in the tracks where there is a melody, where there are other effects happening. But there's still the types of melodies that like don't necessarily stick with you. Just an overall impression, which again, considering the idea of the album, what the artist is trying to share. I cannot think of the word in English. I mean, in Russian it's передать, but it's not. I guess share works. It makes sense. General impressions, sort of these things that, even if you can't remember specific moments or themes, there's just like general impressions. So, very nice album, just very, very relaxed, very chill, but very beautiful and just very relaxing. And I think, yeah, that's good. It's like, it's nice to have those types of releases as well. So that is the album Там, откуда мы by the artist Andrey Pobem, or Pobem. Don't know exactly how you pronounce his last name there. Just very nice. Again, if you have a nice set of headphones, or you just want to put on some music and just kind of, I don't know, like I said, work on a puzzle or look out the window or drink your tea or whatever, sort of do a crossword puzzle, just like one of those relaxing activities. This is a really good one. Honestly, though, also really good if you just want to kind of relax before going to sleep too. Just like a lot of nice, warm, positive stuff from this one. Okay, final two here. First up, we have the EP from Yablochko Zelenoe. The EP here is Boys Don't Cry. An electronic release, which I said we don't feature very often, but here we are. This is a bit of a familiar face. Yablochko Zelenoe last year released an EP called Funk the Population in the second quarter, which was quite good, quite energetic, very energetic actually. But this is different. This has got a variety of styles, from like the sort of main electronic music in the sense of kind of traditional musical structures, but performed with electronics. But then there's not a lot. There are moments of drum and bass on here. There's also some classical sounding stuff. There's like actual kind of classical music on this as well. The artist says that it is a small story for those who aren't able to or don't want to show their emotions, for those who have it difficult but never speak about it. Music for everyone who in childhood had their mothers tell them that boys don't cry. So I guess there's like some sort of idea behind it. If you go to Yablochko Zelenoe on YouTube as well, on his YouTube channel, he made a small film which kind of goes along with the music and explores the themes, which I think is always great. Like I like when musicians make a visual aspect of their work, or when visual artists do a musical component to their work too. I always think that's kind of a nice thing, so it's worth checking out. But yeah, emotionally it does kind of feel all over the place. It does kind of feel as though it's something that was perhaps started out of many disparate ideas that sort of Zelenoe, or Yablochko Zelenoe, which means green apple, that Green Apple was working on. And then he found some sort of internal plot to make them all coalesce into a single unit here. There's plenty of variety. Got some cinematic style tracks, some tracks that are more dance worthy, and then some that you just want to use for the kind of headphone introspective moments. But enough yapping. I'll leave the video here too, because these are all kind of moments from that short film that I was alluding to, but I will put up the artwork for a second. we'll get to the classical thing here is coming up. This is also from a, if I'm not mistaken, I can never remember his name, Scenes from a Gallery, famous Russian composer. Or, sorry, not Scenes from a Gallery. Pictures at an Exhibition, which is Moose. I can never. Also, my internet is not working, but Modest Mussorgsky. I can never say his name. I gotta open it in Russian. Mussorgsky. Modest Mussorgsky, who is famous for his pictures at an exhibition. I guess Wikipedia is just not opening. I'm not an idiot. I am, but whatever. It doesn't matter. So I've been letting like this go on forever because I've been trying to remember the name of the composer, but. There's a little bit of that sort of drum and bass that I was talking about. And if you want something, again, a little bit more cinematic, I mean, it does with the Countdown Symphony end titles is kind of on the nose there, but. So, yeah, just really nice, really well done electronic music EP here. That is, yeah, there's just a lot going on in, but it's just nice electronic music, I guess. I don't really have anything too much else to say. It's definitely a lot different from the Funk the Population EP that came out last year. But as much fun as I had with that, I think I do kind of prefer this more relaxed but kind of more artistic approach here, I guess, if you want to think of it like that. That is the EP Boys Don't Cry from the artist Yablochko Zelenoe. And then, yeah, the final one here. We have the mini album My Moon by the artist sputn1k. This is half of the group Ice Peak. This is Nikolai Kostylov, who talked about Ice Peak last year. They released their first album since leaving the country due to them being, kind of anti-war and that not being a tolerable position here. And here, Kostylov steps away from the colder, creepier, prickly electronic sound of Ice Peak and embraces bedroom indie rock, indie pop. Though, again, last year when we talked about Ice Peak's, I think Coming Home was the name of the album. I cannot remember right now. It didn't leave a huge impression on me, but the sound that we hear here was, you could kind of hear on their last album. But at the same time, too, on My Moon, you hear some of those prickly electronics and then some of the brooding atmosphere from Ice Peak as well. So those things kind of are interchangeable, I guess. The key feature here is that this album is almost entirely in English. I saw everyone online saying it's a defense mechanism. It's a defense mechanism because there's, like, obviously thematically this is Painfully Alive, I'm So Scared of the Night, Crying in the Crowd, right? Colder, Bad Liar. It kind of feels a lot of the times like it is an individual who is, forced emigration, I guess, in a way, if you want to think of it like that. So obviously that is not a fun place to be in. But I also don't think it's fully like this sort of defense mechanism. I think it's also probably just Kostylev now has been living out of the country for multiple years. I think he probably had some English before he left the country. And so my guess is that he's just trying to expand his music palette. He's trying to make music that is beyond the Russian audience, which I guess from a certain perspective might mean that he doesn't think he's ever going to come back here, which very well might be the case. I think a lot of Russian musicians are not coming back, and I think a lot of people who emigrated and left because of the war for various reasons are probably not coming back. So a lot of the pain and strife that you might hear on this album and in Ice Peak's former work is probably them coming to terms with that idea. There's a number of times, or at least, once or twice in something I can think of, where there's this idea of like the country's gone, it's closed, you can't come back type of thing. Very nice voice, very fragile and haunting. It reminded me a lot of Anthony from Anthony and the Johnsons. Musically as well, there's kind of this chamber pop, indie chamber music quality to it. Didn't remind me as much of The Cure and David Bowie, which again, a lot of the Russian people online were like, it's like David Bowie and The Cure, and it's just like, maybe I'm not well versed enough in those two individuals to be able, not the group and David Bowie, but I just don't feel like that's, it just feels like it's just a name that you can throw out there. It's like, it's David Bowie and The Cure. Like, oh, damn, it's awesome, and it's so indie, or I don't like Anthony and the Johnsons, if you're familiar with that sound, that very, if you're not, it's also something that you should check out. It's also very good. But yeah, just a really beautiful release here. Fully developed sound, or a fully developed version of the sound, like I said, that we heard on Ice Peak's album last year, full of longing and loss, emigration, hopes for the future as well. Let me just play a little bit here.
I block the socials on my phone, yet I will read if you will write. Why don't you leave my mind alone? You stay with yours and I keep mine. I keep the roses that you gave. Since then they turned all dark and dry. I want my mind to be the same, but it is painfully alive. I love, I cry, I am painfully alive. I fall when I fly, I am painfully alive. Last year I didn't feel at all. No drugs could ever make me high. Now I can fly without a fall. I am a moth that burns in light. I love, I cry, I am pain. Since you blew that candle out, I've been so scared of the night. So I'm staying up when it's going down. Hours taking turns and it's never mind. When the light goes off and there is no sound, I am scared of the night. I am so scared of the night.
And yeah, I mean, like the fact that English is not his first language,
I need to keep
lyrically it is a little bit more simple, but also like not horribly so. Like it feels pretty normal. But just musically altogether, the overall sound is something that I've listened to this a number of times. I do feel like I'm going to come back to it again.
body I meet. I feel a little
think again that sort of darker, menacing sound does creep through from time to time. And for sure there are other sounds aside from that kind of bedroom indie rock type thing here. This is straight up reminded me of Closing Time by Supersonic. Closing time, you don't have to go home, but you can. I know. I don't know, every time I hear it, I hear Closing Time, but... So like this song is kind of frustrating for me because I keep waiting for it to, but like it's still, I don't know. And there's like a 1950s radio, like an AM radio doo-wop pop sound here, right? Or I don't. So long, so long. So definitely some other musical ideas pop up throughout this album as well too. It's quietly multifaceted, I guess. Just a lot of different musical and concepts, especially for something like that sort of 50s doo-wop sound, right? It's not something that ever really existed here in the Soviet Union, right? That was something from the States. So for a surprise for a Russian artist to like kind of utilize that sound. Not to say that it's secret hidden knowledge, but it was kind of it struck me as odd, but in a good way. And honestly, lyrically, it doesn't really matter, I guess. There's that quiet menace I was talking about too. It kind of shows up from time to time on the album as well, but... So even though lyrically it's from somebody who English is their second language, right? So, but that's fine. There's a lot of artists who do that too. It's really not something that's probably worth mentioning. Lyrically, you can kind of just ignore it because like his voice is so kind of buried and utilized as its own instrument. For the most part, except for like, again, these acoustic style sections, which do pop up from time to time on the album. It's hard to explain, but it's just one of those albums that there's not necessarily anything especially, I don't know, new or unique unique here, but the way all of it is put together, the emotion, just the emphasis in the vocals more so than the lyrics themselves. The entire package here just comes together very, very well. And it's one of those releases that it feels good all the way through, and it has kind of gotten better with repeat listens. I don't know. I don't really have too much more to say than that. The release here, the sort of mini album, My Moon, by Nikolai Kostylov, or as he's going by in this project, Sputnik. Yeah, this is definitely kind of the top pick for me for the week, and honestly, I have to double check what's come out recently, but it's definitely, I think, one of the better things since the start of the year. I guess that's why it's rounding out the week here. But that's it. I gotta stop talking too, because I'm getting sleepy, and it's harder for me to come up with something intelligent to say. But I think what I will say as a whole for this week is I kind of didn't set out to do as much rap and hip hop, but Icegergert with his Boga release kind of forced my hand in that regard. And also the fact that the Call Center album came back on streaming services, or at least on, actually no, it was on Yandex as well too. So, but at the same time, it has been a slow start to the year. There haven't been that many like big serious releases that actually feel like wow. I said My Moon, I think, is one of those that over the course of the year is going to hold up really well. I think it's just a very nice release in general. But yeah, it has been kind of quiet. So not that it was hard to choose the albums this week. I think I mentioned last week that I had listened to like 5 or 6 releases that I just immediately got rid of. I definitely did a lot of pruning of the February playlist as well. And I did go back, to January as well too. I'm not limiting myself in that regard this year. But yeah, I feel like still some good stuff here. Probably not as mass appeal as last week. I feel like last week was generally a week where most of the albums were kind of palatable for most people. This week was a little bit different, but I did kind of want to talk just about to hold up Ice as an example of what you shouldn't do and what you probably don't want in the industry. But I've already said my piece on that. I am a sleepy Sally, so I'm going to wrap it up there. I'll be back next Thursday. You know how this works. Do it again then. And then news on Sunday evening at 9 p.m. But everyone have a good evening until then, or a good afternoon, or whatever. Take care of yourselves. I will see you when I see you, and until then, пока-пока.